Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics. In association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. And welcome back to Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast, the official podcast of WFAT. An amazing guest today. Thank you for being here. Thanks to our audience for listening. You're going to want to stay tuned to this one. Our guest today is Simone Fortier. She is a pioneer in brain-based healing and the founder of the Fascia Training Institute, where she's been training health professionals for over 30 years. Her groundbreaking work has helped elite athletes from the NFL, NHL, MLB, and Olympic teams. But it's not just her client list that sets her apart. She's the creator of dynamic brain healing protocols and has completed 6 years of clinical trials on brain nutrition. Her system targets chronic pain, post-concussion symptoms, and the hidden trauma stored in fascia, delivering real results where traditional methods fall short. She's also a best-selling author, international speaker, and healer, a rare and powerful fusion of science and intuition. Pretty powerful right there. Two of my favorite things, science and then the intuition part, absolutely necessary as a practitioner. Having personally recovered from multiple head injuries, Simone brings deep empathy and lived experience to her mission, helping those who've been dismissed, misdiagnosed, or told to just push through. She's changing the conversation about what it truly means to heal, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And we're going to get to this, Simone. Thank you for being here. Just before you jump in, but a workshop coming up in the fall in our neck of the woods here in Canada, in the East, in Montreal. We'll touch on that for sure. But before we get there, hi, thank you so much for your time. Pleasure to see you. Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to talk to you. Say hello to our audience.
Hi, everyone. And I just want to say thank you for having me. It's an honor to be part of your community.
Awesome. Great to have you, and come on high expectations as well as, nominations from people that we know here in Canada, and looking forward to this conversation as we jump in. Maybe we'll start with it really a couple simple questions. Where are you in the world, and what are you doing out there?
Well, where I am in the world is because I'm just going to do a disclaimer here. I do have ADHD, multiple head injuries. And so ADHD people sometimes don't like to be in one spot. So I'm actually in two spots. I have a clinic in Calgary, and then I'm also in Arizona. So I'm in two locations, and went to ASU, so meeting with some professors there, and just kind of working back and forth between Canada and the US, which is the best of both worlds.
Do you use this for retreat from winter in Calgary to Arizona, or is that just part of the battle?
Yeah, actually, I've been going back and forth really since 1999. And, sometimes it's longer, 2 weeks back and forth. But in Calgary, I really have built up a practice working with kids with concussion and ADHD. So it's like I'm really tied to supporting them and ongoing and watching them really transform in their sport, but also in their personal life. So it's, yeah.
No, fantastic. And obviously have spread from kids, or worked your way towards kids, always worked with kids. And then you have the pro sport realm as well. So all sides of the, performance
Spectrum.
globe or spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it started actually, I was invited to work with professional athletes in Arizona in 99. And it was a training institute. And I went and I was actually teaching as well as a university myofascial release work. But at the side, I was waiting for that training facility to start. It was with Charles Poliquin and his group. And through that, I actually got connected to the, I guess they're called, well, they're the Stretch to Win people, but fascia stretch therapy group. And I introduced them actually to the fascia work that I did. And through them, I got to work with amazing professional athletes such as Donovan McNabb, Andrew Jones, a whole bunch of, and I mentioned these right now. People are like, oh, you did just work with people. You work with like icons. I'm like, oh, really? But they were amazing. So I was working primarily with the fascia chronic pain work with them. And through that time, I was having multiple head injuries, which I didn't realize I was making my world smaller and smaller. So I stepped out of the athletic world after like, 4 or 5 years. And then I started working with the people who own the teams, so seniors and that sort of thing. And really, it helped me develop a language of explaining pain, explaining fascia, and really how it impacts their health now. So I think that was like the training ground of working with that demographic to actually come up with the languaging so I could eventually teach it. Because in 2000, I really didn't have the vocabulary to teach the work that I'm teaching now. I didn't formulate it. I didn't know if I could teach it or not because a lot of people were saying it was esoteric. It was before the Fascia Research Congress. It was before people got really, into fascia. And I had the opportunity to actually work with one of the founders of Genentech. And he's like, fascia is esoteric. It doesn't really exist. And he goes, one of my friends wrote the medical dictionary. I'm going to look in there to see if fascia is really a thing. And the only thing that was in that medical journal or dictionary was plantar fasciitis, of course, and then regional fascia and a very genetic definition. So this was like pre days. And so people were just really quite ready. And I also wasn't ready to teach at that point. So going from that demographic, working with those people really laid the foundation. But after my sixth head injury, it led to the creation of my brain nutrition program, which really saved my life and literally saved my life and the quality of life that I had. And prior to that, I did create 15 years ago, I created the Dynamic Brain Healing Program, which I did launch initially to athletic therapists in British Columbia. So that was the first launch was to really athletic therapists, they were like, oh my gosh, this is very unusual, but they helped develop really the length of the course and really how much I could put in because of course I just put way too much in. It was overwhelming and whatnot. So from that brain nutrition program, I really realized that if I had done that when I was 10 years old, it would have changed every decision I ever made. And that's when I really started working with younger kids. And the youngest that I work with is 5. I can work with younger with the manual treatment for those that have had like compression injuries at birth and or falling and that sort of thing. But really the youngest on my brain nutrition program is 5 years old. And what's really amazing is seeing that, all things are possible for them, but seeing the changes. And I'll just give an example. I was working with a 16-year-old. He was a top skier, downhill racer in Canada. He was the number one, and he had an injury and he broke his back. So from that, he could still walk. But it prevented him from actually doing a sport. So from that, he lost his identity of being number one. Everybody knew him to being really a normal person who had a lot of fear about skiing, really didn't want to ski ever again and all this sort of thing. So the defiance kicked in. He did have ADHD. He didn't have the resources to heal really from his concussion from that event, but also the pain.
Mm.
And his parents brought him to me and they're like, it probably won't help him. He's lying, he's doing all this, he's failing in school, he's doing drugs, self-medicating. So went from the top student, top athlete to now drowning in his life. and a lot of suicidal ideation, which goes hand in hand with ADHD and trauma. So he started working with me, and now he's 20 years old. He got accepted into the business college at U of C. He's done an internship out in Toronto. He's now doing an internship this summer with ATB, and he has been drug-free, alcohol-free, and scaling his life. So it's just powerful to see that impact on kids. And the older you are, it's not that it's not possible, but there's a lot of disappointment. So people have seen the best in the world. They've even gone to Dr. Amon's clinic. They've done all these things, and they came out with an antidepressant. And that puts them into more despair because they're like, well, all these people were supposed to help me.
Right.
And what I found out when I was working with athletes in 2000, 1999, 2000, all through up till 2007, is that they were coming to me and they're saying, like, I still have this. I'm seeing my whole team on, with the team, and I'm not getting better. And I was really young then. So I was like, well, they must not know what they're doing. And then now looking back and even a few years in, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like they're the best of the best in the world, but they were hyper focused on doing treatments that weren't really supportive for the demographic I work with, which is really the 20%. So what we're all trained to look at, and even functional medicine people are looking at, they're trained to do the 80%. So what I discovered through my own journey was being ADHD, 6 head injuries. It was opposite of everyone else. And so less is better. We have to get people out of fight or flight, which is also part of the down regulating the brain. And so that's how I created the dynamic brain healing program, was to really get the person first out of fight or flight. Then what I found out later is that some ADHD people simply don't have the resources to heal. They're born deficient in 7 nutrients. That research has been done. I read like thousands of papers, not just on that topic alone, but going, okay, there's all this research out there, but nobody put it together, right? How that imprints or changes how we treat people. And so if they don't have the resources to heal, and even if they're doing the best treatment in the world, it won't last. So what that does for the ADHD person or the person that's been dismissed, it makes them feel worse because they look like they're malingerers. They look like they're not doing the protocol, or they just ghost the practitioner. They don't show up again because after doing the best treatment. So I learned that through experience. And then looking back at these athletes, their practitioners didn't understand fascia because it was pre-fascia being popular. And so I did the fascia work. So they're like, you're doing magic. This is like works and it's one treatment and we're all awesome. And because I had a natural affinity to fascia, I didn't understand that that's something most people didn't have. So
This is a terrific journey. And then for our listeners out there, like, okay, done. Believe it, fascia exists. So if you don't believe it, I'm sure Simone can provide some research to demonstrate that it is in fact a real thing, and it isn't magic. It is a well manicured approach to care, I think, and part of that, in as your bio listed, is part of that is science, and as your initial sort of walk through your journey, intuition counts, right? And like hearing people and seeing that like not every protocol fits every single person. That's how we adjust as practitioners. We can't just simply try to go square peg round hole and hope it works. We have to adjust. We either have to shave off the edges and make it round, or shave off the hole and make it square to make the pieces fit. And I'd love to dive in as we go through this, the totality of healing, the physical part, how much percentage does fascia play, and then the mental, emotional, and spiritual part of things, where I think, again, not to make this about me, but my journey has been right out of the gate was fix the physical thing. Shoulder
yes.
hurt, make shoulder better, get shoulder better quicker than anybody else. That makes you a good practitioner. And never really connect with the human. And the whole piece with fascia and my limited research on that is it's connective. So it is all about connection, whether physically, mentally, spiritually, like all of this is connected. And so I love where we're going here. I love this story and your pathway here. and then the idea of the intuitive practitioner, which clearly you embody. So if someone were to ask you, what's your title? What do you do? Because a lot of people will rely on letters or say I'm this or I'm that. How do you answer that question, I guess, as a starting point to the next segue here?
How I answer that is, I think first, well, yeah, it depends on who I'm talking to. So, because it changes, because I'm literally hundreds of certifications. In my clinic, I used to have them on the wall, and then we had something happen. I took them all down. People like, oh my gosh, and they spend a lot of time looking at those things. So I really started studying the brain, actually doing brain gym, educational kinesiology in the 90s. I did myofascial work in the 90s. I was still in school, but my type of brain is I went to school year round, double majored. I initially wanted to be a lawyer. And but my best subjects were mathematics and science. But when I was 10, I decided three things. One, I was going to be self-employed. Two, I would live in the Southwest United States. And three, I would be a lawyer at 10, because I was apparently always an entrepreneur. And my reason, though, for wanting to be an entrepreneur, which I didn't know, I just wanted to work for myself, is I wanted to wear what I wanted to wear.
Fair.
Very simple, and that was it. And so I was on that journey, and for some reason, I just clicked into law. So I have a very different mind than a lot of healthcare practitioners. So I did that journey. I did pre-law. I also did neuroscience, so I got a BSc in neuropsychology, and then I did the the pre-law courses, which were political science and a lot of pre-law courses. And when I was in my third year, I had a car accident, and I went to a physio who was trained in England. He was more osteopathic, and he was the only one that actually could help me get out of physical pain. And so it made me transition to actually start studying the physical sciences. But I did finish that degree. And then I went on to study the physical sciences. And also, I was going to apply to med school, and this is part of my journey, that it was in really 2004 or 2005-ish. And what happened was I didn't realize this was part of my head injuries, that I became deaf. So I just woke up one day and I was completely deaf. And so I went to emergency, and they put me on prednisone and that, but it took me a couple years to really get my hearing back. So it kind of like, life happens, journey happens, it's for a reason. I don't know why, but it was for a reason that I didn't go on to that journey, but I was really heading in that direction. But in the meantime, I did do exercise physiology, I did bioengineering courses, I just really loved learning. And I did get an award in sciences with having a high GPA. So I have that academic side. I really, really emphasize, though, that you could have all those credentials, but really, is it impacting people and helping them? And so I'm really emphasizing results, because all that stuff doesn't matter to the person who's in pain, the person who looks normal, but their brain's on fire and they can't be themselves. And they saw all those people and they're in despair. So I was like, there's a gap there, and that was me. And so I just, with my ADHD creativity, was like, okay, I gotta find a solution to this. And I did. And even though it was really hard for me to read, because after my sixth head injury, 2014, um, reading all those papers was really difficult. I couldn't even spell. I didn't know right from left. I'm pointing to my frontal lobe, frontal bone. I would say this is my occiput. But in my head, it was the right thing. So a lot of words were coming out opposite, part of aphasia. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna do it? But I did it. It wasn't easy. And plus I was working in my clinic 10 hours a day, because that's the only thing I could really do and feel good about it. But everything else I couldn't do. So coming into that, yeah, that's kind of like my long journey into saying, how much credentials do I have? And really where I'm going. So right now, the exciting part is that I am a PhD candidate on my research. So that is the next step, and I'm in the process of doing that. So once I do that, I will celebrate that and put that out there.
Yeah, and I mean, even celebrate it now while you're in the process. This is worthwhile. This is a lot of years poured into making something and making meaningful connection that helps other people as well as helps yourself. I think the personal connection to what we do is a driving force in caring for other people, right? So you have some empathy, you have all of these pieces that you've lived part of, at least most of your clients, I'm sure, and what they're going through, and that's a beautiful thing because they can relate. And a lot of the times, maybe that's the magic as well. But the other magic is this thing, this F word.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, and I've been wanting to play with this play on words, and it is rather fascinating. Fascinating. What is that, and why is there magic in the work that you do with this tissue in the human body and head injury, ADHD, all of the things? What is it about fascia that, if you can, I don't know, loosely define or
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first started doing the manual therapies, like I said, I would just engage the fascia. I didn't know I was doing that, but I'd engage the fascia, and that would create lasting change. And so then as I started finding the words and doing all that sort of thing, I'm like, well, what is this actually? And so why there is so much controversy in this topic is that fascia was actually removed from cadavers, really all the way up until probably 2000, I would say 11, that it was taken off so that people who were looking at bodies, such as anyone in the medical field, doctors, they'd be like, it doesn't exist because it was really never there. It was taken off. So they saw the nerves, the muscles, and all that sort of thing. So they didn't really understand it. But in Germany and in Europe, um, surgical dentists knew tremendous amount about fascia, and they were doing all the research. They were leading the research in that. And then also too, all surgeons understand fascia. It kind of looks like cotton candy. It's like there's chaos in there when you open up the body. And so the artist surgeon is the one who understands those lines of tension, how that's supposed to be put back in. And those are the artists that the person recovers from that knee surgery, the knee replacement. All of a sudden, yeah, they're doing way better than the person next to them. So the mechanic can put somebody back together, but they don't understand the art of really the lines of tension, the importance of fascia. So the research on fascia has been going on for a long time, and it's currently going on, and there's leaders in that field, and I'm actually presenting at the Fascia Research Congress in New Orleans this year, which is super awesome. But it's like they're discovering new things. And what they are discovering, and that which they can actually even measure, is, and what I knew really in 1999, 2000, is the fascia actually parallels your psyche. It parallels your thoughts. So whatever you're thinking, actually the fascia responds to. Fast forward today, what they're finding is that, it's comprised of extracellular matrix. That extracellular matrix is actually also in your brain. So, and what the studies are showing is that the fascia communicates faster than the nervous system. And if you think about that logically, even without research suggesting that, is when it's one organ, of course, there's no system or leeway or synapses to go through. It's just communicates all at once. And that's a really hard concept for people, because when you look at when you're doing surgery, what you said, you have a shoulder problem, I'm going to fix that shoulder, without understanding the fascial network to that at the time, that injury, all the energy coming into that injury reverberates through your entire system, influences the fascia. The fascia then immediately takes over. And then that dysfunction isn't necessarily fixed when the shoulder's fixed. And so what happens is then people's posture changes. They adapt to that injury, and then also to their brain. Their brain oftentimes does not realize they're healed And that's why psychologists are a huge part of teams. It's like they're physically fine, but their brain is still distrusting or a bit hesitant. And also too, with going into just a thing with concussion. So after concussion, there's like a 95% chance that people, specifically women, but also men too, will experience a lower limb injury, right? And that is also too because their brain's off, their proprioception's off, and that leads to more injuries, but also to more falls, more concussion. But also too, after concussion, the delay in even a high performing athlete is like even a millisecond longer. And so we know in high performing sports, that's an issue because, how fast a quarterback can throw the ball, how fast a basketball player can release. Those were all slower. And so that research is already out there, but I just went into a deep dive and reading all this thing. So going back into the fascia, yes, it is a connective tissue. It has the ability to communicate with the rest of the body. And it does that through, the proprioception, but also too, because it's part of those structures. And its main function, yes, is protection. But what my favorite word is, you cannot really stretch the fascia. And this is an argument going back and forth. So fascia stretch, or I call it fascia spacing, because the fibers are actually, when you move, fibers are coming apart and laying down. It's like an orchestra of music inside the body. So the fascia creates that space. So when you move to the side, there's space for everything to move along with that. So pain occurs when there's restriction there. And so when the fascia's restriction or you have those adhesions and you go to move, there's lines of tension or pull, then again, that creates dysfunction, creates pain messaging to the brain, and the brain's like, oh, can't do that. So then you stay really in that specific spot. It's kind of like sitting, hunched over, all that sort of thing, which is a normal positioning, because to create that space actually creates pain when the fibers are coming apart. So when the fibers come apart, that actually creates that space, which replicates stretching. And going back to the beautiful muscle model, because even when I teach this to practitioners, they always love to go back to the muscle model, because that's really what we've taught. It's a two-dimensional thing. You can look at it in a book, and fascia is 3 to 4 dimensions. So it's, yeah, you're smiling. It's true.
I
Yes.
I love this because I was waiting to go here. It's like we learn it so two-dimensionally and on a flat piece of paper. Origin insertion, which I probably couldn't name more than 3 muscles origin insertion, but I could tell you how to move it around and how to strengthen it and or positionally how you utilize it and all of these other things. And so this is right up my alley. So that's why I'm smiling and nodding emphatically on this side that our audience can't see, but you can. Yeah, keep going, because as you're talking, I'm like, okay, muscle does the thing, contracts. There's these different type of contractions we've named. Isometric, eccentric, concentric does this. It moves from one point, it shortens, it lengthens, it has this complex, it does this thing, myelin and all these different actin, myosin, all these different things. And then you got bone, which is hard, and that's where tendon attaches to, and ligament goes from one to the other. And then you got this stuff in them everywhere, which is fascia, and has this communicative network of, I don't know, keep going. This is fascinating to sort of
Yeah, it
navigate.
is. It's
I think it's undercredited in terms of, everyone calls themselves X, Y, and Z, and they're going to work on your fascia. And I think, like,
mhm.
are we or aren't we? That may be irrelevant as long as we're making a difference, but completely relevant coming from your area of expertise.
Yeah, so I talk about that too. So there's direct fascia work and then there's indirect. So movement is indirect. Um, and also too, yoga can be indirect unless the person knows how to engage their fascia, which you can yourself. So movement, I'm just doing the movement like this, bringing your arm over your head. A speed is joint, right? And then you can contract, which a lot of people do when they have injury. They'll contract the muscle, and therefore also too, their range of motion. See, range of motion is very reduced. But when you engage the fascia, actually you can hold a position for long periods of time. It's a depth. And each structure has a different depth. And I teach that. It's like, okay, even when I'm working with people, I'm like, here's the difference. Here's the tendon. Here's the muscle. And then also too, here's the fascia, like, oh my gosh, like very different sensations. And with that too, I just want, because this is a really important part of why I specialize too with ADHD. I have ADHD, but ADHD people, 85% are hypermobile. So hypermobility, there's 1,000 layers, right? And but 85% of ADHD people, so that hypermobility is not just in the ligaments, it's also in, the peristalsis, in digestion. So infants with colic, probably, I don't know, I haven't tested this, but my hypothesis is that they're probably ADHD because they don't have the ability, because ADHD people need movement after eating, which is the opposite of pretty much everyone else. They need rest to digest. But we need that movement, the stretching, also really good posture to encourage that, because those ligaments, if they are lax, they take more movement. But the interesting thing here is too, is that ADHD kids or hypermobile kids, they actually have to consciously, even at 3, 4, 5, have to consciously move because they have that laxity. And what that means is they can appear lazy because it takes a lot of energy for them to do that. So they'll probably sit for long periods of time, or even if you look at professional athletes, because I know you've worked with them, they will always want to park right next to the door of whatever event they're going. And so the top performing athletes, a lot of them have that hypermobility. They're the ones that look like grace. Everything's flowing. Then you have the really tight muscular people, and they're like, there's a lot of force. So you see the skier going down, there's a lot of grace on the hill, and then the one choppy, and they're going down, and everything, every bump you feel because you're seeing it in them. So they're just different body types, but that hypermobility actually changes a lot. So what happens is the fascia takes over the role of the ligament. So that instantly creates dysfunction. So what these people are often saying, because I've had these conversations, it's opposite day. Everything I say is opposite day. I'm like, actually, you're really flexible. They're like, no, I'm not. I can't even touch my toes. And my strength coach, my physical therapist are saying I'm super tight. I'm well, actually, when we look at this is what I look at. Okay, so your joints flexible, your muscles not, because again, it's contracting. And then your fascia is over top of the muscle, and the fascia is contracting, it's stronger than steel over your muscle. So even that contraction force you're getting is not optimal. So again, that limits your movement and the possibilities of, really, between making $100 million or $1 million is really in those millimeters or those inches of what people can create power from. And if you have contraction of fascia around a muscle, the power is limited because the contraction, again, cannot do the full contraction of that tissue. So fascia trumps muscle. There was one study actually done, I think in 1965, and they studied the tensile strength of fascia. And there's a lot of people quoting it, but there's actually one study, and it took approximately 7,500 pounds per square inch to tear fascia. So on a normal day, it's around 2,000 pounds per square inch of force that is on the fascia, just general movement. So when you're looking at impact in games and all that sort of stuff, and also too, there's a lot of rotator cuff issues or tears in labrums. I was actually at a orthopedic surgeons conference where Patch Adams was a guest speaker, which is super cool. And I'm like, there was a body there, and I'm like, I want to see how much force is it to tear that labrum in the shoulder. And it took 5 of us heaving on that to actually do that. So there's a lot of, there's the connective tissue there, there's the labrum, there's the fascia around that. And this is on a cadaver, which shouldn't be as hard as a living person. But again, these structures can absorb a lot of force. The fascia can as well. So the research that they're doing right now is they're trying to create a common language for fascia and what defines that so that people can speak the same language, but they're also doing that with concussion. So concussion also has multiple definitions, and the last Congress in what I think was Amsterdam, they're coming up with that definition. But when you go out, people are like, oh, a concussion, I wasn't knocked out. and even medical doctors saying that. And it's like, actually, we've come a long way from that, that there's a lot of other ways you can be concussed. Choking, compression forces from birth, even to falling on your spine. That one is pretty powerful. Like that one is like hitting the back of your head, and then those compression forces are actually often the worst for people for recovery.
Mhm.
So there's lots of different ways. So they're looking at creating that definition, but the structure, the biology, the physiology of fascia is not really changing that much. So, it's collagen, elastin, the extracellular matrix, all that sort of fun stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like okay, got it. Now I can go work with it. Maybe not quite as straightforward. So that'll sort of next departure from where we were is the coursework that you teach and the opportunity here in our area. I'm in Ontario, in the Toronto area. You're coming in the fall in September to present a workshop in Montreal. Tell us a little bit about that, the angle of that workshop. We have listeners that are um, generally speaking still in school as athletic therapists, athletic trainers, multiple practitioners from different fields, different credentials, relatively new to the profession, some that have been at it for 15, 20 years. Who is your workshop for? Does it suit practitioners in all
Uh,
fields?
in all fields, absolutely. So, ATs, PTs, osteopaths. I also have, for that particular course, it is 4 days and it is intense in the sense of, they do have to know the anatomy. They have to know. So it's like really, if they're in school, it might not be the right course for them, because really an experienced practitioner would be the best, because all that experience to bringing all those tools in, but also too, I'm going to say this as well. I've had strength coaches do this,
Mhm.
and they have done exceptionally well with the work because they don't have, I guess, the unlearning to do really about fascia. So they get the palpation skills. And so the hardest thing in these courses is actually for all levels, even like, PhDs to masters in ATs to physical therapists, is engaging the fascia. So a lot of people want to do speed, they want to do tendon work and linear work. And that's not really how fascia works. So in my experience, for that, it's like we have to really engage the fascia first. So I have this saying that no one likes being told what to do, and neither does your fascia. So when you use force in your treatment, there's a rebound effect, and then there's also to putting the person back into fight or flight. So people overlook the nervous system, they overlook the lymphatics when they're dealing with fascia, and they're hammering on people. And they don't understand they could damage those systems. And they're immediately giving feedback to the fascia, which, you could do those treatments and you can have endorphins released and, oxytocin and stuff like that. But then 4 hours later, they're back to the same place or the next day. So we're looking at how to engage, really calling it the inner physician. So the inner physician is that energetic body that really allows for change. And the fascia is directly connected to the inner physician. And so my whole approach is less is better, finesse. Like, let's engage the fascia, and it's a slower process. But once you, and like I've always done it instantly. So when I'm teaching them, like, I have to show people how to do it, but it takes them at least 2 full days to get that. And I did teach in Ottawa during COVID. And one of the osteopaths there, he struggled. He goes, I am struggling with this because this is opposite of everything I've learned.
Hmm.
And he was in business and for a long time, but he just yeah, so it took him by the fourth day. He really got it. And he's like, oh my gosh, it opened up a whole new world. So what I'm saying is, who's it for? Is that, people who do have the experience, because it is a next level course, but also to those people who really want next level, who go, okay, yeah, I really want to support my people in this way. And I'm finding that I can't create those results with those people in my clinic or the athletes who need the results right away.
Beautiful. And an open mind, with that base in science, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of understanding, but open enough to not just slam the door shut on fascia or a gentle technique or a technique that takes a little bit longer. It's not a hit and run technique from what I'm gathering. Lots of
Right.
lots of positional considerations, and an expert at the front of the room for 4 days in Montreal coming up in September. Where can people find you? Where can people find your work? Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Well, the FasciaTrainingInstitute.com is where I have the courses listed. They can also email us direct at info@SimoneFortier.com. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook.
Doing it all the places.
I don't know.
Like the fascia. I like this.
That's right. So I
Awesome.
have a fascia business page on Facebook where I post a lot of things. And then once people go through the program, they get into our private groups. And then I post different things in there too, and also to creating a community of people who really are like-minded, I guess, and to ask their questions or to find a practitioner in there as well.
All right, very nice. And we look forward to that. I don't mean to cut you off. I think we could do this again. And I think let's do this again. We'll do this with case studies. We'll do this with, some findings and a little bit of a deeper dive. This was an intro to Simone Fortier, again, a pioneer in brain-based healing and the founder of the Fascia Training Institute, where she's been doing this for over 30 years, personal experience, science, intuition, care. Healing through physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual angles. All of it matters. All of it is connected 100%. Simone, I'll just leave you with maybe one question that has nothing to do with everything, but everything to do with nothing at the same time. The coolest spot, the most memorable spot you've been to on this planet?
Oh my gosh. One of my favorites. Well, oh my gosh, I have to narrow it down. Hawaii.
Beautiful. Never been, but I feel like this is a place everybody needs to picture, and
it's a very spiritual place with a lot of power, even though it's a very popular place.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to taking a deeper dive with this in the future with you, with our audience. If you'd like to reach out anytime. Thank you for listening. SimoneFortier.com is where you can find her. All of this will be posted in the podcast wrap up as we get ready to launch this session, as we get ready to enter the hotbed of the summer here. Simone coming in the fall into Quebec and Montreal. We look forward to that course. Look forward to having you a part of our network now, and hopefully some people reaching out, saying they are listening and diving into what it is that you do and how you do things. Thank you again for your time. I'll leave you with the last parting words. Thank you 1,000 times over. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your space and your expertise in sharing this with us.
Well, thank you so much. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to really be here to support other people. And I'll just leave with all pain begins in the brain. We can change that.
Amazing. Have a great day. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. We look forward to connecting again and again and again into the future. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com, CONSULT@firststartherapy.com, on Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.